Welcome back to This Film Not Rated, a branch of the Music City Drive-In Podcast Network, where we like to talk about movies without rating them. On this podcast, we usually talk full spoilers. But today, we can't do that. Because what movie are we talking about, Curtis?
The movie we're talking about today is Glass Onion, the new Rian Johnson film that just came out, and a sequel to Knives Out.
Good summary. So, what Curtis is about to do is go through our gauntlet. You know, everyone insists sometimes that there's a truth, an automatic good or bad to a movie. So we're trying to prove people right and failing, which kind of proves people wrong. We're not talking about that. So, Curtis is going to go through 15 questions in this gauntlet. And he is now going to have to not spoil this movie because it's not out till December 23rd on Netflix. And he is going to have to... It had a 1-week run in theaters. That's why we're able to do this. And he is going to have to not say anything that is subjective until he is buzzed out with our buzzer. Curtis, goodness gracious, are you ready?
No, I'm never ready.
Okay, well, if you make it through the gauntlet, what prop would you like us to try to get? And do not say a bottle of Jared Leto's kombucha.
That actually wasn't what I was thinking of. The napkin.
Alright, Curtis. Glass Onion. Is it good or bad?
Well, Glass Onion is a movie that is, as most people would know, a whodunit. And it contains a lot of staples of the murder mystery genre. So if you are a fan of that type of film, I think you will appreciate this film for what it is.
Yeah, cool. All right. Hey, what was the best scene in the movie?
Oh god. About halfway through the movie, you are under the impression that it is one thing. At about the halfway point, when you get to the parlor scene, it cuts back. That builds up upon that builds up on a character that we didn't know of. And once you get back to that initial parlor scene, it has a whole new meaning.
Like a whole new context?
Yes.
And it is good that it has a new context?
It has a new context, that's all I'm going to say.
What needs to be cut out of the movie?
This may not be cutting, this may be reordering, so I don't know if this will count. But there is a scene at the very beginning when all the players are getting their box. And you get this one shot of a box being torn apart. That shot didn't need to be there at that time. Dang it. Okay.
But 3 out of 15, that's a fifth of the way there. Boom. Let's get the hell out of that.
Okay.
Because it is now just more about trying to speak to how I personally think that people should, in fact, see this movie, okay? That it is good, and that I have my issues with it, and somehow do this without spoilers because we're so used to talking spoilers.
Yeah.
So what made you want to watch it?
Well, it's a Knives Out sequel, written and directed by Rian Johnson. I am a big fan of the first Knives Out, which we reviewed here earlier. And one of the things that I said was it held up surprisingly well, which is something that I wasn't expecting. So I was very excited to go back and revisit the character of Mont Blanc,
Benoit
Blanc.
Benoit.
Yeah.
The OIT is Wa.
Yeah. So, played by Daniel Craig. I really like him in this role. He plays a fairly different role than it's a different role than I've seen him play in other films. Arguably similar to his character from the girl with the dragon tattoo just played a lot more comically.
You know what? There are a few shades of him.
Uh-huh.
Just he's the sort of innocent in a scenario of dark.
Yes.
And all he can do is find facts, and he can make no promises in that movie.
Uh-huh.
And that's a very similar setup to how his character is in here. You know, there's this suggestion that he's not Batman. He can't, take vengeance or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of pieces that are surprisingly coming to my brain connecting the girl with the dragon tattoo in this.
But something that I did get from Glass Onion that I didn't get from Knives Out that I'm happy that I got a little bit more characterization from Benoit Blanc. Where in Knives Out he's very much a secondary character, kind of like a driving force for the story. In this one, he's the central focus for like half the film until you get to a jump back at some point in the film.
Yeah, that part at least I want to say. So this is like a mild spoiler.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big thorn in my side, where basically after about 30 to 40 minutes of movie, you have to pause and then rewatch the movie you just watched on fast forward, trying to keep up with it as best you can to get a new context to it because you know something you didn't know.
Right.
So there's like halfway through the movie, you have to go, oh, and this, and oh, and this, and oh, and that's why she did that, and oh, and that's why that happened. And I don't see the point in that. I understand that there are supposed to be twists and turns, but the idea is very clear in a behind the scenes section in Knives Out that we see the story from a main character, Marta. It's her story. And like you said, in this movie, what they do is they hide Marta.
Yes.
And then you have to watch Marta's story. It's like if in Knives Out, you had just watched Benoit Blanc be the main character interviewing everyone. And then after the reading of the will, you flash back and rewatched all the night's events and everything, just to get little snippets of what Marta was doing.
Right.
It's like that to me, it was almost anxiety provoking, to be honest. Like,
yeah, I can see that. First, not Knives Out. I think, like you said, it's paced a little bit better. It's spread out throughout the film, so you get to see things as they're unfolding, and it's not unfolding all at the same time, just so the audience can get caught up with what they're seeing.
Well, there's even at least one little moment where Edward Norton talks about him and his team of people, how sometimes you have to take risks, and even when you have a partnership and that person is holding you back, sometimes you have to, take a risk.
Yeah.
And there's a sort of double meaning to that because of who he's referring to with his partner. But there would be a thicker context to that. Thicker. You like that word? Thick. In the sense that Benoit Blanc would have a partner operating. And if you think about who that is and how much that interaction would be if you knew that both of them knew who they were referring to, that's so much of a weightier line.
Yeah.
And you have to watch that zip by in 2 seconds in passing and not even think about the original context, only focused on the new context. Like, I feel like it was a little showy and a little inconsiderate of the audience to assume you have to go back and do all of this and not just do it in the first place and tell your story like it was happening. Right. Anyways.
This one, with Glass Onion, though, the characters almost took a step back in being a little bit more caricatured than they were in the first one. Like I think of, I said this last time with Private Eyes and all the suspects in there, where they're all kind of like a stereotype or an exaggeration of a certain character or ethnic group. These are similar to that, but it's not ethnic groups, it's political standing or business or something along. It's something like personal that's exaggerated to unreasonable extent to give it more comedy.
Disappointingly too close to being reasonable, but that's more the world's fault than Rian Johnson's fault.
Right. Which again, a star-studded cast. I kind of laughed out loud once I knew what kind of character that Dave Bautista was playing, because it's a character I've seen on YouTube countless times from countless channels. Same thing with the politician. She's just any old politician that you could pick out of a lineup. Nothing special.
A very particular agenda. Political agenda.
Yes. Also, kind of like in the first Knives Out, where the family is of different political orientations, leanings, but they're all but they're all different levels of bad. Same thing with these characters.
Friends.
And they're all friends. Yeah.
I think it's interesting that in both of these movies, you have all of them who are willing to defend one another despite their activities in the face of some sort of threat or opposition.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it makes them douchebags for considering that other threat and opposition.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I really like that.
Yeah. Same.
Leslie Odom Jr. really surprised me with this. The employee of Edward
scientist?
Norton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really liked... I feel like he was accessible as a human, and I feel like his motives were clear, and then they didn't really do a lot with him. So it's like a lot of the work comes from him that makes it feel like he's memorable and someone to pay attention to. I think he's a very thoughtful... He comes across as a very thoughtful character, and I really liked kind of... I just like what he did.
I don't... It's going to be hard to talk about Edward Norton's character without spoiling this, because I really like his character. And I
don't think so. I think what we can say about him is that his character is set up to be like a certain type of eccentric movie character that you've seen. You know, he's set up to be, I have a lot of money and wealth, you know, and to not spoil, you know, what happens with him.
Mm-hmm.
When they start to pick out the truth about him, it feels very real that you've been on this experience and been like, oh yeah, son of a bitch. Like,
yep. And for all you Magnolia fans out there, there's a certain scene that you will notice pretty quickly.
Well, I want to know, and that's another thing, we can't totally explain why, but like I want to know where all of his costumes come from.
Right, same.
I want to list Rian Johnson. I want to list. It should be a bonus feature. Just like, it should be of the costumes one after another.
Mm-hmm.
And with a little note.
Right.
Of where they come from. So.
This is one I'm definitely gonna be looking forward to seeing again. Because I think this is gonna hold up pretty well on a second viewing, especially because the characters are one, I like the character writing, and I like being around those characters. I like laughing at them. I like laughing with them. It's like this weird. It's almost like I'm being sucked into their own weird society when I'm with them, which feels terrible, but also it's like it's fun to be there.
It is. It feels like it does feel enough like a trip. You know, like when you see a movie and a character goes on vacation, there's supposed to be some level of enjoyment to you of like looking at the beach and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think there's just enough in there that this still feels like a fun murder mystery, while it gives you a little bit of that imagining being at the beach breeze kind of energy.
Right.
You know, everybody around the pool and like all that kind of stuff. And everyone there is taking a vacation from the stresses of life, and you see whether that follows them or not. And that's a thing too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just keep remembering every performance and every little cameo. The characters who are made into cameos are perfectly cameos.
Yes.
Like they should have been cameos. And the characters who, like Catherine Hahn, they sort of dressed her up by dressing her down. having her character be like, I'm on vacation. I'm not putting all that makeup on. I'm not doing all this with my hair and all that kind of stuff. Which, you know, like, they definitely had to, like, dress her particularly in order to get her to have that sort of vibe.
Yeah.
And you just... there's something about her performance that makes her feel like she's coming apart at the seams, and it's so perfect.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think the hardest one that our friend talked about was Dave Bautista, who has to play that role. And you can tell what he's trying to be, but you can also tell that he is a performer, like our friend said, does not want to be associated with that kind of person in real life. And perhaps wanted to satire him, but was worried that he would be typecast or something, because he plays the character with just a little too much vulnerability and sensitivity, where I think someone else would be a little more immature about it. I look forward to just watching this again. Yeah. And who knows, maybe one day we'll spotlight the two of them as a double feature. Yeah. Or we'll talk about this again when the next Knives Out Mystery / Rian Johnson Whodunit comes out. And we'll talk about all the things we couldn't talk about.
Yeah.
For Glass Onion.
That sounds good to me. Hey.
So, we are This Film Not Rated. Again, we are a branch of the Music City Drive-In Podcast Network, where you can go to find the Debbie Delight, a couple of other podcasts, and find things that you're interested in. We are really close to having one of our podcasts, have ads and be able to find, some success. So if you listen to this, tell a friend about it, see if they like it. Just help us push towards our goals a little over the edge there. And we appreciate you all for listening. And I'm Eric. You can find me at High Contrast Alpha Lem.
And I'm Curtis. You can find me at 90s Gamer 407 and on Twitch at Merrick _Tainment.
Okay, so here are the spoilers.